He won more trophies than any British manager in history, built a dynasty, changed football, and for years, he walked alone. There were no chants for him, no murals beside the Shankly gates, no bronze, no knighthood, just silence where a roar should have been. May 25th, 1977. Rome. Liverpool lift their first European Cup. The players go wild. The Kop sings. And Bob Paisley? He walks off quietly, head down, coat folded, no spotlight. The Kop roared, "Liverpool, Liverpool," unaware their quiet genius shaped it all. He built the empire. But he left the cheering to others, because Bob wasn't born for noise. He didn't shout, he studied, he built. I'm not one for talking, I'm one for doing. Bob Paisley. And what he did was turn Liverpool into the greatest team in Europe, without ever asking for the credit. If you believe that true greatness needs no parade, subscribe. This is the story of the silent genius who built an empire and asked for nothing. Bob Paisley was born in Hetton-le-Hole, a coal town in County Durham where the sky was always grey and ambition came covered in soot. He wasn't raised in luxury, he was raised in discipline, in fields of mud, pits of fire, and homes that knew how to endure. By age 10, he was kicking a worn-out ball across slag heaps. By 14, he was working alongside miners. The pits didn't ask for your dreams, they swallowed them. But Bob's boots carried something else, a different shape of destiny. If you want to win, you work. Nothing else matters. Paisley's father. He signed for Liverpool in 1939, a 20-year-old with coal dust in his lungs and balance in his boots. But before Anfield could call him home, war called him to battle. North Africa, Italy. Bob served in the British Army, not as a soldier of fame, but as one of quiet courage. He saw blood. He saw loss. And he returned with a deeper understanding of silence, of resilience, of structure. Those things would one day build a football empire. But back then, he was just a lad from Hetton with mud on his knees and fire in his heart. I just wanted to play, Bob later said. His Hetton steel would one day forge the roar of the Kop. When football resumed after the war, Bob Paisley didn't return as a wide-eyed dreamer. He returned as a man who had seen the world break, and now he wanted to build something that lasted. He played as a left half, a position without glory, without flash. But Paisley didn't need attention. He needed structure. And he gave Liverpool exactly that. From 1946 to 1954, he made 253 appearances for the club, scoring 10 goals. In a 47 Merseyside derby, his pinpoint pass to Stubbins sealed a 2-0 win. The Kop roared his name. But it wasn't the goals they remembered. It was the anticipation, the intelligence, the man who saw danger 2 passes ahead and solved it before others noticed it was coming. Bob didn't chase the ball. He chased where it was going next. Billy Liddell. In 1947, Liverpool won the First Division title. It was Paisley's first taste of silver, but you'd never find him at the front of the parade. He was always just there, holding the team together, holding the line. He never became a superstar. He became something rarer, a player who understood football not as spectacle, but as system, as psychology, as timing. And more than any chant, any cheer, he earned something that mattered more. The respect of the Kop. Because real fans always know who does the quiet work. And Bob Paisley was the quiet man who made the noise possible. Bill Shankly arrived at Liverpool in 1959 with fire in his voice and revolution in his mind. But even fire needs structure, and behind every iconic roar stood a man who whispered ideas into shape. That man was Bob Paisley. He became Shankly's most trusted lieutenant. Not because he talked the loudest, but because he saw everything. You see what I can't, lad. Shankly to Paisley. In the boot room, beneath the main stand at Anfield, there were no spotlights. Just old benches, cigarette smoke, and minds sharper than blades. It was there that Bob Paisley began building the future. On the back of notes scribbled on scraps, Bob once stayed up till 2 AM dissecting Leicester's wing play. Liverpool beat them 3-1. While Busby and Reevy grabbed headlines, Paisley was building something quieter and stronger. quiet conversations, and unrelenting attention to detail. He studied opponents like a scientist, analyzed player psychology like a therapist, and refined systems like an engineer. While others chased drama, Paisley chased patterns. The media adored Shankly. The cop worshipped him. But even then, those who looked closer saw it. Shankly lit the fire. Paisley kept it burning. And as Liverpool climbed from second division shadows to league champions, as names like Hunt, St. John, and Smith carved their legend, Paisley stayed in the background. But make no mistake, he wasn't in the background because he was small. He was there because he was holding up the stage, and the stage was being set for something even greater. In July 1974, Liverpool stood still. Bill Shankly, the man who'd rebuilt the club, the face, the fire, the thunder, stepped down. And in his place, they handed the keys to a man who never wanted them. Bob Paisley didn't chase power. "I'm not Shankly, but I'll do my job," he told the directors. He never asked to lead. He said simply, "When they asked me to take over, I told them I wasn't sure I was up to it." The press scoffed. Fans murmured. Even the cop, in all their loyalty, whispered, "He's not Shankly." But what they didn't see, what only time would reveal, was that Liverpool had just handed the throne to a man who didn't need a crown to rule. His first move? Ray Kennedy. A forward converted into a midfield maestro. Kennedy's debut goal in '74 lit up the cop and started a belief that would grow into history. A stroke of tactical genius that would become Paisley's trademark. No fanfare, no speeches, just quiet decisions that shifted the club's orbit. In that dugout, Paisley didn't fill Shankly's shoes. He stitched a new pair, designed not for marching, but for flying. And while the world waited for Liverpool to fall, Paisley began to lift them to heights even Shankly hadn't reached. Because Bob didn't roar. He built. He didn't pace the sidelines. He didn't scream from the touchline. But by the time Bob Paisley stepped down, he had built an empire in silence. 6 league titles, 3 European Cups, 3 League Cups, a UEFA Cup, a Super Cup. 20 major trophies in 9 years. More than any British manager before or since. And yet, he never made it about himself. The names around him sparkled: Dalglish, Souness, Rush, Hansen, Grobbelaar. But Bob? He stayed in the shadows, wearing the same flat cap, walking the same quiet path from boot room to dugout as if nothing had changed. But everything had. In 1977, Liverpool faced Borussia Mönchengladbach in Rome, a European final, the club's first. And Paisley's calm translated into brilliance. They won 3-1. Red flares lit the night sky as Dalglish chipped it in. Anfield didn't just erupt, it soared. Dalglish chipped. Souness dominated. And behind it all stood Bob, watching like a chess master as his pieces executed the plan. He barely raised an eyebrow, Souness recalled. But when Bob nodded, you'd run through walls. He did it again in 1978, and again in 1981. While Clough's Forest danced in headlines and Ferguson began building empires elsewhere, Paisley's Liverpool conquered Europe, not once, but 3 times in 5 seasons. All from a man who said, "The best compliment you can give me is that I made the most of what I had." He didn't buy brilliance, he made it. He saw roles no one else saw, converted players, shifted shapes, set standards. And the cop? They never stopped singing. Not because he asked for it, but because he earned it. There was no grand farewell, no fireworks, no final roar. Just a 2-0 win over Watford in May 1983. Bob Paisley stood up, shook a few hands, and walked down the Anfield touchline for the last time. No press conference, no fanfare. Just a man slipping away from the throne he never wanted, but ruled better than anyone. The cop knew. Scarves spelled B-O-B across the terrace. "You'll never walk alone" thundered, not for the players, but for the man who built the dynasty. "I'm not about parades," he once said, "just the game." And in the game, his blueprint lived on. Joe Fagan, his trusted lieutenant, took the same tactics into the next season, and won another European Cup in 1984. The torch hadn't just been passed, It had been engineered, quietly, perfectly, faithfully. Bob's final act wasn't a wave, it was a legacy. But time, like football, is cruel. By the late 1980s, whispers turned to concern. Paisley, once the sharpest mind in Europe, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. He built the gates, but others walked through them, one fan murmured quietly. He briefly returned in an advisory role, a football mind still sharper than most, until Alzheimer's began to steal his clarity. His wife Jessie stood beside him, guarding his dignity as the memories faded. The man who remembered every formation, every nuance of the game, began forgetting names, even Anfield, and still, there was no knighthood. Bob Paisley passed away on February 14, 1996, at the age of 77. He died in Liverpool, the city he had quietly built into a fortress of football. The news didn't shake the tabloids like some, but in pubs across Merseyside, in the quiet tears of older fans, and in scarves hung beside radios, the silence spoke louder than any headline. No lifetime award, just silence. Ferguson was knighted, Clough was mythologized. But Paisley, the man who'd won 3 European Cups, was fading quietly in the background, as if greatness had no place without noise. But the fans, they remembered. In pubs, on scarves, in chants, his name never vanished. Paisley's Reds, they'd say, built to last. For decades, his genius went uncelebrated in marble or metal. But legends, real legends, don't stay buried forever. In January 2020, under grey Merseyside skies, the club he built finally said it out loud. Outside the main stand at Anfield, a bronze sculpture was unveiled. Bob Paisley, carrying an injured Emlyn Hughes in his arms. No trophy, no pose. Just a moment of care, the way he led. The godfather of Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp called him. No one won more, and no one asked for less, said Kenny Dalglish, standing beside the statue, his voice thick with gratitude. Scarves were tied gently around the base, roses laid down in reverence. Fans cried not just because of what he won, but because he never once asked for applause. The cop chanted Bob, 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 3 simple syllables that echoed like hymns. Bob Paisley didn't chase legacy, he lived it. He built it, brick by brick, pass by pass, and now, finally, the silence had an echo. If true legends don't need noise, leave a comment for Bob. Because at Anfield, the roar, it's still his,